The psychology of over-apologizing, why you say sorry too much. You say sorry, even when nothing actually went wrong. Someone bumps into you, and the word comes out before you can stop it. You apologize for asking questions, for taking space, for existing a little too loudly in a quiet room. And sometimes you notice it later and think, why did I do that again? It feels automatic, like your brain pressed a button you didn't choose. But here's the strange part. This habit didn't appear randomly. Your mind learned it for a reason, and that reason is still quietly shaping your behavior today. Problem deep dive. Over-apologizing rarely looks dramatic from the outside. It hides in small moments. You say sorry when sending a message late. Sorry when asking for clarification. Sorry before giving an opinion. Sorry, this might be a stupid question. Sorry, I might be wrong. Sorry for bothering you. Over time, something subtle happens. Your brain starts linking being careful with being safe. And slowly, your identity bends around that idea. You become the person who tries not to upset people, the one who manages the emotional temperature of the room. You read faces carefully. You anticipate reactions before they happen. Psychology calls this high interpersonal sensitivity. It often develops in environments where approval mattered a lot. Maybe conflict felt risky. Maybe mistakes were noticed quickly. Maybe harmony was more important than honesty. So your brain learned a rule. If you reduce friction early, you avoid problems later. And apologizing became your shortcut. But there's a cost. The more you apologize unnecessarily, the more your brain quietly records a message. You must have done something wrong, even when you didn't. And over time, that can change how you see yourself. But something deeper is happening underneath this behavior. Something your brain is doing automatically. And once you see it, the pattern becomes much clearer. Reframe. Here's the part most people misunderstand. Over-apologizing is not weakness. It's an adaptation. Your brain was trying to protect you. In behavioral psychology, this is called conflict avoidance learning. When the brain experiences tension, criticism, or unpredictability, it looks for behaviors that reduce those experiences. If apologizing once reduced a negative reaction, your brain marked it as useful. And the brain loves useful patterns. So it kept repeating it. Not because you're insecure, but because your mind was optimizing for safety. The problem is, your brain doesn't update habits as quickly as your life changes. What once protected you may now be limiting you. And the real mechanism behind this habit is surprisingly mechanical, almost like a control system running quietly in the background. Psychological mechanism. Imagine your brain has something like an internal social alarm system, not a loud alarm, more like a sensitive smoke detector. It's always scanning for signs of rejection, tension, or disapproval. This system involves areas like the amygdala and anterior cingulate cortex, which process social threat and emotional conflict. When the brain predicts even a small chance of social discomfort, it tries to neutralize it early. Apologizing becomes a fast response, like releasing pressure from a valve. Here's a simple mental model. Think of your brain as a social thermostat. It constantly tries to keep interactions at a comfortable temperature. If it senses a room getting slightly too warm, a pause in conversation, a neutral facial expression, a delayed reply, it adjusts, and one of its favorite adjustments is, say sorry, lower the tension. But here's the catch. The thermostat isn't always accurate. Sometimes it reacts to things that aren't actually problems. And because the habit runs automatically, you don't notice it forming in real time. Your brain predicts discomfort. You apologize. Nothing bad happens. The brain reinforces the behavior. This is called a reinforcement loop. And loops like this can last for years, without you realizing it. So the question becomes, how do you gently interrupt a pattern your brain believes is helping you? Not by forcing confidence, not by pretending to be different, but by adjusting how the system works. Practical framework. There are a few steps to retrain this pattern, not aggressively, just carefully, because your brain learns through evidence, not pressure. Step 1. The pause before the apology. What to do when you feel the urge to say sorry. Pause for 2 seconds. Just notice the impulse. Don't suppress it. Just delay it. Why it works in the brain. This activates your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for conscious control. Instead of letting the habit loop run automatically through the basal ganglia, you're interrupting the autopilot. Real-life example. Someone takes longer to reply to your message. Your instinct says, "Sorry if I'm bothering you." Instead, you pause, and sometimes you realize no apology is needed. Step 2. Replace apology with acknowledgement. What to do? Instead of apologizing, acknowledge the situation neutrally. Example. Instead of "Sorry I'm late," say, "Thanks for waiting." Why it works in the brain. This shifts your brain's framing from self-blame to social awareness, which reduces unnecessary guilt signaling. You still maintain politeness without reinforcing the "I did something wrong" pathway. Real-life example. You join a meeting a few minutes late. You say, "Thanks for your patience." The interaction stays smooth, and your brain learns a new social script. Step 3. Track the pattern. For 1 week, what to do? Write down moments when you apologized unnecessarily. Just observe. No judgment. Why it works in the brain. Awareness increases activity in networks related to metacognition, the brain's ability to notice its own patterns, and patterns that become visible often start weakening. Real-life example. You notice most apologies happen when asking for help or when expressing opinions. That insight changes how you approach those moments next time. Step 4. Let small social tension exist. What to do? Allow brief awkwardness without fixing it immediately. This might feel uncomfortable at first. That's normal. Why it works in the brain. Your nervous system learns through exposure. When you don't apologize and nothing bad happens, the brain updates its prediction model. The amygdala slowly reduces its threat response. Real-life example. You disagree with someone in conversation. Instead of saying, "Sorry, maybe I'm wrong," you simply say, "I see it a bit differently." And the conversation continues normally. Your brain registers at safety. Step 5. Redefine what polite means. What to do. Remind yourself, politeness isn't self-erasure. It's clarity plus respect. Why it works in the brain. Your beliefs act like filters for behavior. When you update the belief, your brain stops defaulting to protective scripts that are no longer necessary. Real-life example. You ask a question in a group without apologizing first. You're direct, calm, clear, and nothing collapses. That moment quietly rewires something inside you. Integration. So, if you step back, this pattern becomes easier to understand. Over-apologizing isn't really about the word sorry. It's about a system in your brain, trying to manage social safety, a sensitive thermostat, a loop that once worked. But now you're adjusting the settings. Pause the impulse. Shift the language. Observe the pattern. Allow small tension. Redefine politeness. Not to change who you are, but to give your brain new evidence. Because the mind doesn't change through force. It changes through repeated experience. And every small moment where you don't apologize unnecessarily teaches your brain something new, quiet, empowering, close. Maybe you've spent years trying not to inconvenience anyone, trying to move through the world carefully. But something important to remember is this. Your presence is not a problem that needs constant correction, and the space you take doesn't need to be apologized for. Your brain learned caution. That made sense once. But now, you're slowly teaching it something else. That calm interactions don't require self-blame. That respect doesn't require shrinking. And sometimes the quietest shift is simply this. The next time the word sorry rises automatically, you notice it. You pause, and you choose whether it actually belongs there.